Good evening to you. Um, Psychoanalysis has been on my mind. And as you know, it was brought to us by Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. And he came up with all sorts of interesting theories, but some rather strange theories as well. And one day, a fellow analyst, younger than him, appeared, whose name was Carl Jung. And for a long time, they got on very well together. They were big buddies and they had a great time. And in fact, Freud, who pioneered the idea of working with the couch, used to psychoanalyze his mate, Jung, his student Jung, who would lie on the couch and, the technique where he'd sit at one end of the couch and would listen to everything he was saying. He was a giant of a man. He was huge. And the patient would sit there and he would listen to every word that the client was saying, that Jung was saying. And he developed his theories. And one of his big things was the influence of the father. And of course, in the end, we probably know what happened between him and Jung and Freud, and they fell out. And I've been thinking about my father recently, and the various explosions occurring. These, by the way, just to give fair credit to where credit is due, these are produced by the Unemployed Philosophers Guild, a wonderful group of people in the States. And they produce not only big dolls like this, which somebody gave me a few years ago, and I've been longing to use it in these broadcasts for years. They also produce what they call magnetic personalities, because these little fellas not only are finger puppets, but are magnetic as well. So you can have them on your fridge. So even the couch is magnetic. So I guess you can. I haven't tried yet, but I suppose you can have Freud lying on the couch in your kitchen. And there's even his daughter, who was a famous child analyst, Anna Freud, who I once saw speak in London, actually. So these puppets are just crying out to be used, and here they are. So Freud pioneered this understanding of the influence of the father and the mother, of course, in psychoanalysis. And I realized this morning when I woke up that one of the most annoying characteristics of my father that I have inherited, and it was a humbling moment, but then a redeeming moment, because what I found with my parents was that they talked incessantly, absolutely incessantly. And it used to drive me nuts as a kid because I was always trying to get in the way, get between them. How can we do this? I was trying to get between them to try and get my own word in edgeways. And the thing about speech and talking is, for me, is I don't want it to go around in circles. I want it to take me up or take me down or take me deeper inside. That's why, when you listen to things like, Radio 1 or something like that, the BBC, there's so much chatter. I feel that last night I watched some slow television, and I think they should have slow radio as well, where there's just silence on a radio show. And in a way, if you think about it, that's what we do in these Tea with the Druid sessions. It's a bit of slow live Facebook. So I'll chat away for 10 minutes, and then we'll have a bit of quiet and slowness. And Maria Sophia Lundgren, I'm sorry to hear you're feeling depressed. Let's hope the tea does lift you up. Because here's the thing, be interesting. I mean, try this experiment. And it may not work for you, and it may not be universal, but I just think it's so interesting to think about perhaps one of the most annoying characteristics of your parents. Have you inherited them? Is the first question. Can you the sort of the ultimate insult when Stephanie and I really want to get at each other? We will say, you're just like your mother, or you're just like your father. And we lob that as the final lob in an argument. You're just like your father. So that's the first question. How much like your father are you? And then the second question is there a gift hidden away in there? Is there a nugget, a jewel? And what I realized is there was a nugget. When I go to see my mother, who's 96 now, in little old people's home around the corner, she'll sometimes recite poetry. And sure, she'll go round and round, as old people often do. But she's also capable of suddenly coming out with the most beautiful poetry that she's remembered by heart. And she recites it to me. And so I realized that's what I want. I've inherited this kind of gift of the gab, as they say. Your fingers now look naked, somebody says. Oh, put them back on, clothe, dress your fingers at once. So I want my words to be meaningful. And I suppose that's what's driven me. And when I write and when I talk, I try to make the words meaningful. And I try to be decent and wear clothes on my fingers so they're not naked. And somehow these ideas, well, this helped me to resolve really the problem of waking up on a Monday morning thinking, my God, it's tea with a Druid tonight. What are we going to talk about? So the way words can lift us up, can bring us down, that's the problem in a way, isn't it, with watching too much television, is unless you choose the right programs, the words can bring you down. Literally, they can make you feel depressed. And the art is to be realistic and to be able to deal with reality and what's happening in the world and the news and so on, but also to understand that language is magical. And that's, after all, why we're interested in magic, I guess, most of us, is because we know that words have power. Which leads me to our journey today. And you know how after about 10 minutes, I guide a meditation for about 10 minutes. That's the way these teas work. And then if you want a longer journey, we've set up something called the Private Magicians Club. And once a month, there's a nice long journey, as well as the conviviality and the opportunity to ask questions and so on, live Facebook sessions. And the way to get to the Private Magicians Club is through either the Lessons in Magic course or the Transformation Through Tarot course. And you can find details of that on my website. But what I want to talk to you, the journey I want to lead us on today is a different one from the one we normally take. It's taken from this book that I was told about called The Guidebook for an Armchair Pilgrimage. Photos and designs by John Schott, and the text written by Phil Smith and Tony Whitehead. And it's really very unusual. When I first ordered it, I thought it would be working with the ideas of Armchair Pilgrimage that I've talked about in the Book of English Magic and Sacred Places. People are always rather rude about armchair magicians or armchair pilgrimage even. The real people go out and do this stuff. Well, with as you get older, sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes it's not practical. Sometimes you don't have the money to do it or the possibility to do it. And now with having to be conscious of your carbon footprint, sometimes it's not a good idea to do it. So I've advocated the idea of armchair pilgrimages, using meditation, visualization, and the internet actually to stimulate your connection with the sacred side. And in the Book of English Magic, I talk about how magic can be done from an armchair as well, which is why in the Private Magicians Club, we have extremely comfortable armchairs that we work our magic in. But this turns out to be a very different book indeed. It's a book that invites you to spend 19 days, which can be consecutive days or with gaps, where you read some text and then look at some photographs. And it takes you on a journey. And it's a real journey that the authors did in the Devon countryside, but it's a journey you can take from everywhere because the authors are psychogeographers. And I thought for our journey tonight, let me read you a section and show you the pictures. And just enjoy the language. And I opened it at random, asking for the right page. And I found myself on day 7, where the journey has taken us to the Morris dancers. What are they? Oh, their name has suddenly jumped out of my mind. I can't remember. They're all dressed up in black, and they have extraordinary hats that they wear, and they do these incredible performances. We get them in Lewis. Dave the Bard invites them to do their performances in at some of his events too, and it's powerful stuff. So just sit back and enjoy, and I hope you enjoy the language of this. The dancers and the things their dances bring. You feel the drumbeat. Below the great hill, night falls hard and fast. How many pints of the dreamer brew will set you free? Baron Samedi, voodoo boss, smiles your way, his face cracked, skin drawn brilliant white over a death's skull. The beat quickens, rag figures appear, grease-black faces and blacker lips, white eyes startling in the gloom. Excited by the wildness of this apparently ancient dance, its shared history with the draw of the old hill, and the conviviality of the dancers, holding their glasses so the beer and cider swills to the step of the jig. You are pilgrim here. Buoyed up on the excitement outside the pub, beside the village green, you feel as though you might effortlessly float up to the top of the hill on the crow's wings of the black costumed dancers. Watch them through the distorting lens of your smeared glass, almost empty now. The dreamer at work, collapsing past and future, dismantling the firmness of boundaries that might shore your stumbling ego against the beat. Sit outside the country alehouse, the sky darkening above the looming great hill. What is undoing you? Put down this book for a moment. What does undo you? Whether for good or bad, what is it that loosens you? The wild and honest cavort of the black-faced Morris dancers, trespassers and poachers is still roiling like dark and oily waves. Is that why you feel so strange? Or was it the sensual sophistication of the garden? Did its liaison of subtle forms and a fine taste for desire unsettle you? Which is easiest to admit to yourself? The fiddle player grinds his strings. The shining crosswomen begin a new dance. Rags fly outwards, feet leave the ground, feathers trail from blacktop hats. A single quill flutters through the cold night air and settles in the gutter. Sticks crash together and coarse yells echo up into the darkening sky and tremble among the boughs of the distant hilltop copse. Waking sprites and elementals who now pour down the hill to join in with the human throng. More dreamer, more dreamer. What's that on the edge of the circle? What's real here? From a far distance, from the edges of what is holy, darkening silence approaches. Absolute silence in a shuffling pack, its surging awkwardness and toothsome snarls muffled by the falling cloak of night. This is the great unsounding that marks the end of things. Beer, village greens, memory, love, communion, and life. The nothing that neither affirms nor denies, the great dark light that just is, and is not, allowing no opposite. Here it is, in the swirl of the coal-black dance, you meet the darkness, and now you are dancing blindly and burning darkly. At each turn, feel how another citadel of your certainty collapses in a rain of ashes. Sense how you are crumbling now, the whole city and multitude of you, dropping through the green into the black, into the timeless dance of the glassy something smear on the cracks, appear and then disappear with whatever they were cracks in. Time melts like a fierce white flame. You are lost. And then you turn the page, and there is blackness. You turn the page, and more blackness. Turn the page, and more blackness. And then, surfacing. Day 9. So you were on day 7, and now you're on day 9. Day 8 has disappeared. And so it goes on, this beautiful book. There you go. Guidebook for an Armchair Pilgrimage. John Schott, Phil Smith, Tony Whitehead. And you can find it on Amazon. I think what's so interesting is, it's easy to mock Freud or to criticize him. And there's a hell of a lot to criticize Freud about. But we've moved on now, and there was this progression, if you like. Freud opened the door, and then Jung came along, and most of us probably prefer the Jungian approach to the Freudian approach. But let me know who you prefer. And then beyond Jung, of course, you got people like Assagioli, the founder of psychosynthesis, and other people who are involved in transpersonal psychology. So thank you for listening to me. And I'm going to thank the spirit of our meetings together. Good night to everybody. Or good morning if it's the morning for you, and good night from all these little friends and the big friend too. Okay, good night.